down and break that winning streak. But there is a little bit of a change here for this game because Atata, if my sources are correct, has graduated. Since this is a collegiate team, he has graduated and moved on to bigger and better things in life.
Look at him.
And what a guy. And so the game could change entirely.
I had to stop the stream because apparently it was going to the wrong one.
Oh, LOL. Who are you sending it to?
Oh my gosh. It's off a different computer.
But yeah, no. So I'm really enjoying Atata's work outside of collegiate, and just kind of seeing where he's going and follow him and being like, wow, we played that guy, and he's a phenomenal player. He really is.
He's a phenomenal player, phenomenal guy.
I believe, if my sources are correct, that they are going to fill Atata's spot with a Yoshi.
Okay, never mind. My bad.
With a Yoshi.
Right. This new Yoshi. Absolutely incredible. In the DFW area and even in the Smash Bros scene altogether, but I have high hopes for this because I like watching Yoshi players. I don't like playing against them, but I like watching them. Yeah. They're very fun.
Yeah.
Very, very fun. So just for people who are tuning in, and you may be saying, what is this Super Smash Brothers Ultimate thing we're talking about? Well, I'm going to give you a quick little rundown of how this game works, maybe the different mechanics, aspects that are going on, and this is for people that have literally never even heard of this game before. So, Super Smash Brothers is a long-running franchise that's been going on since, I believe, 99 or 98. 1998. It's been going on for a while, but Super Smash Brothers is what is known as a platform fighter. Now, a platform fighter is a kind of game where you play as a character on a platform, like a floating platform, and your job is to try to hit the other characters off of the platform to win the game. And you can win either by a point system or by a limited life system, and the most common one for this game specifically is a limited amount of life system, and these lives are also known as stocks, specifically with Super Smash Brothers. There's also an invisible wall, or what's known as the barrier, that is right outside the view of the screen, and if you get knocked into said invisible barrier, you will lose a stock. Now, this goes all the way around and even downward, so if you fall down and you hit the barrier, you lose a stock. If you go out, you lose a stock. If you go up, you lose a stock. Pretty much anywhere you go outside of the screen, you're losing a stock there. So each time your character gets hit, you have a little percentage number that is associated with your character that will increase the more times you get hit by other characters. Now, this percentage can be seen at the bottom of the screen. In this tournament, you'll see two of them, one for SAGU and one for IWU. And your character's percentage is the one next to your character's picture. Now, the more that percentage increases, the more you will fly back from each following hit you receive. This is also referred to as knockback. So the more percentage you have, the more you fly back, the more knockback you have, and the easier it is for the opponent to hit you and knock you off. Well, each character has a basic amount of 27 button press combinations or moves they can use to increase the percentage on the opponent and knock them into this invisible barrier and take a life. Well, some characters have additional moves that are specific to their character, while others have just the basic 27 moves. And each character's moves, even the basic 27 moves of each character, are unique. They function differently, and there's 87 characters total, which is a lot.
It is a lot
of moves. It's a lot of unique things. It's basically 5D chess. There are also different shapes and sizes of platforms that can be chosen, which are also known as stages. So when we talk about picking the stage matchup, different things like that, we're referring to the actual map and platform that they're fighting on.
Yeah.
And in the basic game, there are 103 stages you can choose to play on, but in competitive Smash Bros. Ultimate, which is this game, there are only 8 legal stages. Now, that's so that in competitive play, games are fair for all players and characters, that no player gets one advantage because of a stage and different things like that.
Yeah.
And then each stage has different elements like smaller platforms, moving platforms, and different size barriers that can make the game more dynamic. So that is the bare bones essentials of what Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is. It is an rough and tough like fighter platform game where you're trying to knock the opponent off the platform and take all of their lives or stocks, as they're known, to win. Now, this specific game mode is known as Crew Battle. Would you mind going into some detail on what a Crew Battle is and how it works and some of the niche mechanics of what's going on there?
So essentially how a Crew Battle works is in normal competitive Smash, you would have your one-on-one, because it's a one-person sport, essentially.
Yeah.
But in Crew Battles, you are working with 2 other teammates if it's a 3 person crew battle. And so each of you will work in tandem after one another on both sides. So we'll have 3 players with 3 stocks going up against 3 players with 3 stocks individually at separate times.
Yeah, and think of it almost like a last man standing kind of thing. So when the first 2 people go up against each other, they'll each have 3 stocks, and so the 2 players that are going against each other, let's say the first one takes all 3 stocks from the other person, but the other person only takes 2 stocks from the other team. They will switch to that next player and their 3 stocks with the other person with their 1 stock facing against them. Now, if that person can take that 1 remaining stock, then they'll go to the next person with their 3 stocks. But you'll have some games where one person with 1 stock can take 6, 7, 8 stocks. I don't think we've ever seen a game where someone took all 9 stocks of the enemy team.
We've gotten close.
We've gotten very close. I think there was something that happened recently in Florida, was it?
Yes. So I believe it was last semester in the one of the finale games. There was a Florida player who took 8. And I think that was a record that was set.
Wow. So, and just so that you know, these players are fighting at like a 5D chess level, like they're thinking constantly. They're thinking of all the opponent's moves, their moves, the stage, the barrier, all this different layered aspect of this game. And so for one person to take 8 stocks off of all these elements happening at the same time, that is incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Especially in competitive play where everyone is playing at that certain echelon of gameplay. But yeah, this is going to be really, really cool. And today we have, as we said, we have the SAGU Lions versus the Illinois Wesleyan University Titans. And we're actually going to hop into game 1 right now. It seems like they're starting players playing Sephiroth.
We love to see it.
Yes, we love to see it. So the Duke here.
I do. Sephiroth is my main.
Yes. So every person has what is referred to as their main, and it's the character that they play more than any other character. So Aoife right here, he is our SAGU's starting player in this crew battle. His main is Luigi. He's a very good Luigi player. The thing about Luigi is he's very explosive. With just a couple grabs, which is one of the moves you can do in the game, with a couple grabs and a couple good hits, he can get a lot of stocks early on and really high percentages.
That is unfortunate.
Just like that. And you playing Sephiroth, knowing Sephiroth, go into some detail about this matchup and what this Sephiroth needs to be looking for.
So essentially what the Sephiroth is going to be fishing for is spacing, because Sephiroth's main attribute is having a very long sword that is disjointed from the rest of his body, as well as bigger projectiles that he's, attempting to edgeguard with right here and prevent Aoife from getting back to stage. And so Luigi has to kind of find his way into the nooks and crannies of Sephiroth's gameplay and kind of getting close and combo Sephiroth, because Sephiroth is easily able to be comboed and Luigi combos fairly well.
Yeah. So another mechanic of this game is known as combos, where when you get one hit, you can get multiple hits after that if you play your cards right. Now, the way different characters combo is a huge fundamental aspect of how the game will play. It's all about what you need to start combos, referred to as combo starters, what you need to finish combos and get damage going, and a lot of those can be known as combo finishers or for follow-ups like that. Luigi, one of his moves is known as his up B or up special attack, and that is this huge uppercut that does a bunch of damage and can take a stock really early. And that is what we saw. I believe Sephiroth was at, 70%?
Sephiroth is also a very light character, so he can't really deal with moves with high knockbacks such as Luigi's up B very well. So normally they just outright KO.
Yeah, and usually it takes a stock pretty well. And so there's another element of the game that comes into play is weight.
That's true.
Each character has a different weight and are in different weight classes, and that determines how much knockback you have, and that is unfortunate.
That's a Sephiroth moment right there.
Yeah, that is a Sephiroth moment. It looks like the Sephiroth did what is known as an SD or a self-destruct. which is unfortunate because this being a competitive game, you hate to see it.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it. But that means Efer, I believe he was up 1 or 2. I think he was up 2
I believe
stocks.
he was up 2, yeah.
Yeah, so now what we're going to see is in this crew battle, SAGU has taken 3 stocks off of IWU. And now IWU has only taken 1 stock off of SAGU. So Efer will go into this next game with 2 stocks, and they will have to bring in their second player with their 3 stocks. So SAGU has a huge advantage right now. And if Efer can get some really early combos with that Luigi startup, we could see a pretty clean sweep from this side. So what do you think Iowa Wesleyan's going to have to do? Illinois Wesleyan. I'm going to keep making that mistake. I apologize.
It's okay.
What is Illinois Wesleyan going to have to do to kind of come back and clean this up? How do you win that Luigi matchup?
Well, that's a great question. I personally think that it comes down to who combos better, and especially in a Luigi matchup, or just not getting hit by Luigi and being able to directionally input yourself out of those combos. And DI is basically where when you're moving on a controller, you hold either out or in to try and get in or out of combos. And that goes into a more higher level play. But that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to avoid those combos, or when you're in those combos, know when you can move to get out of it.
Yeah, 100%. DI or directional input is a huge part of the game, especially at higher level play. And it's basically just how you would move a character normally in a video game. But this one it plays in when you're being knocked back. That still matters. Where you're moving, how you're trying to move, even if you're flying all the way towards the barrier, there are some times you'll see them barely not get there because they're holding that directional input on their movement controller, and it pushes them just ever so slightly back towards stage to save their stock. And that's like really next level stuff, but you're probably going to see that a lot, especially at this higher level play. That is a huge thing that people have to do to stay in this game.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is really important, especially in the Luigi matchup, but in all matchups, is the aspect of knowing what to do in certain situations. So you've kind of briefly talked about shielding, which is holding a move that allows you to have a bubble around you that allows you to not take damage from certain moves, but also will get smaller over time, or the more you hold it, as well as grabbing and moving out of that with a throw attack, or spot dodging, where you just become intangible and you don't take any damage.
Yeah, so there's lots of ways that you can keep yourself from getting hit, but as you saw there, you watched Efer kind of SD so that he goes back down to 2 stocks, and we're going to hop into the second game here. It looks like they're playing Pokemon Trainer. Pokemon Trainer is a very interesting character.
It is, yes.
Technically, we're saying Pokemon Trainer, but you're seeing this little turtle Pokemon there. The way Pokemon Trainer works in Super Smash Bros. Is Pokemon Trainer can switch between 3 different characters, and they're 3 different Pokemon. It can switch between Squirtle, I believe Ivysaur, which he just switched to now, and then Charizard. And so that makes Pokemon Trainer very versatile and have a lot of utility because you have 3 characters worth of options you can choose from.
All unique, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And each character has a different weight, so you'll see them switch to different characters when they hit different damage percentages down at the bottom, because Charizard is heavier, so it'll be harder to get him knocked off. So when he gets to a higher percentage, he'll want to be Charizard so that he doesn't get knocked off as easy.
Yeah.
But it looks like this Charizard is doing pretty good at holding center stage, which stage control is also very important for this game, and keeping as much of the stage within your control as possible, because that'll give you the most options, and more importantly, it'll limit the options of your opponent. Because that's all this is what are they going to choose and what am I going to do about it? And if you are able to stay within the realm of forward momentum, of aggressive momentum, of being the one that sets the pace and the tempo, just like any other sport, tempo, pacing, it's all very, very important. But being able to keep that, hold that, and do what you can with the momentum that you can build early on is going to be huge.
It's true.
But we're seeing this Pokemon Trainer, this Ivysaur, taking 1 stock off of Efer. Him trying to come back, and it looks like he's getting good damage. A good back air, which is an attack that you do by hitting someone behind you while in the air. And his up special that we talked about earlier, the big uppercut, anything like that would absolutely kill and take the stock right now. But you see that, him being at such a high percent, switching to that Charizard, great option. Also, Charizard, depending on the situation, has a safer recovery. And there you go, Aether taking a stock. This is really, really good. This still puts them 3 stocks. This puts SAGU 3 stocks ahead of IWU, helping them keep that lead as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and so with Squirtle, Squirtle is also a very fast and combo character. So I think that's what they're trying to achieve here, is to try and hit some of those easier combos that are going to work on Luigi, but they decide that 50% is too high percent to be a light character, so they switch to their mid-weight character.
Absolutely. And the thing about Squirtle is he has a lot of combos, does a lot of damage, and he can get stocks and has good knockback. But the thing about Ivysaur takes stocks like nobody's business. Yeah. Ivysaur's got these huge, powerful moves that just does this explosive knockback damage. Like you're seeing him shoot forward. That's his forward smash attack. That just does a bunch of damage if he can connect it. So he's trying to take that final stock off of Aether, going for the background. I think that kills here. Yeah, and the directional input wasn't enough to save that stock, but that still puts SAGU, I believe, a whole stock ahead, which is really, really important.
Correct.
If they can get to that final game with even just a single stock up, that'll be huge for taking this first set.
Yep.
But that was really, really good by Aether. That first game, I think the Sephiroth was maybe a little off and wasn't fully playing to the best that I could see, but maybe that's just my eyes looking at it.
I want to say Aether also has a lot of Sephiroth practice.
Yes.
So, again, a lot of this game comes down to knowing how to play against a character, because, there's a ton of characters in this game, and each character has to know specific matchup and what to do at specific things with specific characters. So it's very much a mind game as well as a input game.
Yeah. So think about it like this. These professional players that play all the time, they make money off of it, they are having to think about 87 characters on 8 stages and how that can change each dynamic. Each of the 87 characters has at least 27 basic moves that they can do, and each one is completely unique and completely different. And then some characters have even more than 27. Some have up to like 40 or 45.
There's fighters in the game like Kazuya who, instead of having 4 tilts, will have 8.
Yeah, so instead of having 4 tilt attacks, they'll have 8 tilt attacks. Or instead of having just a handful of these symbols like Ken and Ryu, which are based on other fighting games, they'll have just oodles and oodles of moves that they can use to their advantage. So these players are having to think about all those different elements and all those different aspects all at the same time, and then choosing an option that is optimal and that will get them the stock over their opponent. So there's so much big brain thinking going on right now. But it looks like BKR is coming up next. BKR's got a really strong Diddy Kong.
He does, yeah.
Diddy Kong is very fast. Very, very fast. Very good at controlling certain areas. Very good at pressuring your opponent and overwhelming them. Usually when I play against BKR and his Diddy Kong, I feel very overwhelmed very quickly. And that is Diddy Kong's whole game plan. I feel like if he can keep the pressure and just take momentum and just run with it, I really think he's got a good shot at keeping, at very minimum, the 1 stock lead that we've got here.
It's true.
But let's go ahead and go into this other game. You see the Pokemon trainer going down to that 2 stock. And it's also, in this game, there's what's known as taunting, which are a little gestures and emotions that don't actually do any damage. They're not technically a move. They're just little quirky character things that you can do as a means of, just playful banter. And how this league, it's almost like a common courtesy thing. If you're taking away your stocks to reset it to what it should be, a lot of times they will taunt or emote before they actually fight each other, just as a sign of everyone starting on the same page.
It's hey, I'm ready. Are you ready? Okay, cool, let's go.
Yeah, it's just making sure that everyone's starting together and it doesn't feel like anyone's cheating. That right there, when you saw Diddy Kong hold that stage, that is actually what's known as a wall jump. And that is really high-level play.
That's a wall cling. A wall jump is where you bounce off of the wall, which can also be done, but just a little bit different.
Yeah, and that can help tremendously because things like that allow you to be in areas where it's harder for the opponent to hit you and allow you to keep momentum as best cause. That forward smash ended up killing, what was it, 87%?
Yep.
Wow. So BKR getting an early stock, going with the classic banana down air forward smash. This Charizard at 50% already. BKR running away with this lead. This very, very aggressive Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong gameplay. My apologies. Donkey Kong's completely different character.
Yeah.
But there you go. That Pokemon trainer taking the stock. BKR still having lots of momentum and using Banana to his full advantage. So one main mechanic you'll see this Diddy Kong, this monkey known as Diddy Kong, using a lot. Man, getting the forward smash.
I was about to say, I don't think that kills right there.
Yeah, and Charizard lived. And that whole directional input we were talking about earlier about holding your movement stick in the opposite direction of where you're flying will actually help you live. And I believe that's what he did there to not hit that invisible barrier and not lose his stock, which is huge, meaning there is a chance he could come back and take another stock off of BKR if he really plays his cards right, because Charizard can be very, very strong.
Also, Charizard gets comboed pretty hard. So Brayden is probably enjoying the fact that this Pokemon trainer chose to play Charizard for the majority of that match.
Yes, and just in terms of a video game, because keep in mind, this is a video game.
Yes.
In video game, there are two mechanics, especially in fighting games, that are known as hurt boxes and hit boxes. So when they design a character, they have this 3D model or even 2D model that they make, and they animate it and all this different stuff. Well, then you have what's known as the character's hurt box, which is basically the area that if the opponent tries to hit you, it will actually hit you. It makes it feel like you're playing more than a game. And then each character's moves, when they go for a hit, they'll be an specially made hit box where if I swing and I can do this move onto their hurt box or their character, it will do damage.
Right.
So the thing about Charizard is because he's a bigger character, he has a bigger hurt box, which means it's easier for people to hit him just because he's bigger. Like, he just has more character.
He has more mass.
Yeah, he has more mass. He has more character to hit. So Diddy Kong being a character that's very dependent on combos, about combo chains, combo follow-ups, to have a character that's bigger so it's easier to get those combos, I'm sure BKR was absolutely loving that.
He was having a good time. There was kind of a pause in the first stock where he was kind of playing out and seeing how the Pokemon trainer played. And then once he got that, it was time to go.
Yeah,
and he went.
Pretty clean sweep. Yeah. BKR is really good at taking the first handful of the game to kind of read the opponent, see where they're at, see how they play, and then from there, he adapts, he strategizes, and man, he's got a good Diddy Kong.
Which is a whole nother aspect of the game is adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody plays their character differently. So it's not like everybody's going to play their one character the same way. Everybody's going to have mannerisms that they use, and you're going to have to find a way to counteract that to the best of your possible ability with how you play. And so that's kind of feeling out the game itself is a whole part of the game.
Yeah. Being flexible, being adaptable, being able to capitalize on the mistakes that your opponent's making, all standard game sport things. And the difference is this kind of sport, this kind of game is all mental. It's all mental battles. It's all using your brain to outsmart and outmaneuver your opponent in whatever way you can. So it looks like in this third game, they are going with their, what is referred to as the anchor, their anchor being a Steve player. Now, Steve is a part of what is known as DLC or downloadable content. It's material for a game or for any kind of product that is something that is added on later that you can download on top of the original game. So Steve is a DLC character or downloadable content character, and Steve has just been absolutely dominating the Smash Bros. Professional scene just because Steve is so consistently versatile and strong. Steve just has so many options in every situation, and depending on how you're able to play your cards, Steve has an answer for everything.
It's true. And Steve also has the ability with Steve's neutral beat to place blocks. So Steve is from Minecraft. You have blocks in Minecraft. They were like, oh, let's give Steve a neutral beat that can, make him place blocks. Well, now you can turn a stage that has no platforms into a stage that has platforms. So there's a lot of just, for a lack of better terms, goofy things that happen within the game. Just because his character is very different than the rest of the cast.
Yes. Steve is the first character, as far as I know, that has the ability to physically change the stage, to physically change how the game is played. You see these blocks that are coming up and are slowly breaking over time. That is a completely new mechanic that I don't think any character has been able to get even close to, and that fundamentally changes how the game is played, because you can section off entire areas. Also, that ability right there, it's known as minecart, where Steve shoots out this cart that can grab you and pull you and drag you away, and potentially set up for Steve to hit you into other combos that he wants to get. And Steve, one of the characters that I really don't enjoy playing against, just because once you get boxed into a corner, sometimes literally, it can be so frustrating to re-find your groove, get back onto that momentum. And, BKR getting the
Amazing
DI. Wonderful directional input there to not get knocked off. And it looks like BKR might be able to get another stock, as long as he doesn't get forward smashed by a diamond sword. And that is some classic Steve gameplay.
It's true.
Another thing that Steve can do, adding on to that whole flexibility and play mechanic, is Steve, you'll see in the background there is this like workbench block, and it's known as a crafting table. And this is actually so Minecraft is another, all the characters in this game are from other games. There's not a single character in this game that's like an original Smash Bros character. Every single character is from other games, and they're brought into this game so they can fight each other, because, crossovers are a huge thing.
Yeah.
And Steve, in Minecraft, in the game, there's crafting tables, and you can use it to craft different tools. You mine down into these caverns and get materials, and it's a fun, open world survival crafting game. Well, in Smash Bros, they tried to implement that mechanic with this crafting table, where Steve, you'll see him along the ground. It looks like a pickaxe into the ground, and these little things are popping up. That's Steve mining, and you'll see next to his little picture there, next to his percentage, is that there are materials. That bar above his picture, those are his materials. And he can have dirt, he can have iron, he can have stone, and he can use those different materials to craft different weapons that can be used to either be quicker, that can be used to do more damage, and just absolutely changes the game based on what kind of materials you're able to get. So they're placing that crafting table, him trying to craft some tools, but unfortunately for this Steve, there is a little known fact about this sword fighter that is playing right now for SAGU. Talo Halo has a nickname amongst the Smash Bros community.
It's true.
That being the Steve Slayer.
Yep.
Now, Talo Halo knows the Steve matchup so incredibly well. He knows how Steves think. He knows how to play against them. He really understands this play style, and there have only been, I think, one, maybe two Steves that have actually been able to beat him.
Consistently.
Consistently, yes. I think there's only been one that's beat him more than once.
It's true.
And Talo Halo here, just already having taken a stock, and now this Steve being at 94%, he's already at kill percent. Talo Halo, if he's able to get a grab up to
great DI.
Yeah, great DI by the Steve, but with the follow-up, get only 40%.
Hey, that's the Steve Slayer.
That is the Steve Slayer, only taking 40%. And then closing out that last game. I'm going to be honest, just because of that Game 3 matchup, I think it's going to be really hard for Illinois Wesleyan
to break through that.
Yeah. Just because, man, I mean, Mr. Talo Halo, in my opinion, #1 Mii sword fighter in the world.
At least in America.
Minimum in America. #1 sword fighter. I think with his two nicknames being the DFW Defender and the Steve Slayer, it just says so much about how he plays, how he thinks.
Yeah.
And this is going to be quite the uphill battle for Illinois Wesleyan. The last time SAGU and Illinois Wesleyan played, their anchor was a NES player, and he was known as Atata.
We briefly talked about Atata earlier on in the stream, but continue.
Atata. He's 54th in the entire world. Really phenomenal player. And he was kind of the sole charge against this dominating Mii sword fighter gameplay from Talo Halo. And so the biggest reason it was so close is his NES gameplay was so on par, hitting his combos, getting these chains, zoning perfectly. And even then, Taylor Halo was barely able to get that final game 5 off of him. But without Atata, I don't know, man. The chances of Illinois Wesleyan winning this are pretty low.
I think the hardest thing is the fact that their anchor is a Steve. And Taylor knows that matchup. And it's just one of those things where you have to either choose, well, do I bring out a secondary character because that obviously didn't go so well for me, or do we switch up our player lineup, because if we move that Steve to be earlier in the set, you won't have to face off against Taylor Halo.
Yeah, and hopefully that this Steve coming out in the beginning will be able to take a couple stocks off of Efer and maybe even BKR to kind of clean up that earlier part, which honestly, in my opinion, I think that would be the smartest thing for them to do.
I think we might see that. Yeah. Just personally.
Yeah, 100%. I think if they want to get any kind of mileage out of this Steve, if they are not either starting him or putting him in the middle, I don't see any chance of that coming to fruition.
But we're seeing a Cloud now.
Okay, very interesting. So the Sephiroth didn't go so well. I assume this is the same player. Also, for the Illinois Wesleyan lineup, I don't know which order they're going in, but for their players, we have Digital Overlord, Cypher, and Pointed Ranger 11. These were the 3 players from Illinois Wesleyan that you were seeing the last set. So as of right now, SAGU leads 1-0. Now, Caden, would you mind explaining the difference between set and game and kind of what that terminology means?
Okay, so the game itself is what is going on right now. The 3 versus 3 stocks, that is a game. The set itself is all 3 players playing their individual games.
Yeah. And so SAGU leads 1-0, and we are now looking at this Cloud. It looks like this Cloud gameplay is a lot stronger. Oh. Okay, so now we need to explain what just happened. So this being a platform fighter, the platform is a variable in the game. Now, the scary thing about platforms is if you're underneath them, it can be incredibly difficult to get up to that ledge, because each character, once you get to the ledge, there is a grab ledge animation.
Correct.
And that's what you're looking for. You're trying to find either to go directly on top or to grab that ledge so you can pull yourself up. So if you can't get to that side before you run out of jumps, because there are a limited amount of options you have to get back onto the stage.
It's true.
You only have 2 jumps, and that includes a jump off of a platform, off of a ground, and you have your up special, which for most characters helps you recover in some kind of way, some vertical momentum. So with Cloud, he has this upward slash sword attack, and Cloud has a limit mechanic where when he charges up his limit meter, he will do a huge special attack, which for his upward sword thing that you saw earlier, made him go up really far. But the problem was he was so far understage that he wasn't able to get around enough to grab the ledge and pull himself back up.
Well, and the problem is that Cloud's recovery is completely vertical.
Yeah.
And Limit kind of pushes it to the side a little bit, but I think he needed to be further out, and he might have been able to stall that out even, and because he had Limit, make it back, because that also increases the length that his up B goes much more. And usually, whenever Cloud starts glowing blue, that means that he has Limit. And whenever he throws out a blue move, it means that he's used the Limit burst.
Yes, he's used that Limit special ability charge, and this next special attack is going to be way bigger, way stronger, and honestly a lot cooler.
Yeah,
Cloud's Limit special attacks are the coolest thing ever. So right now, him glowing blue, him throwing out that projectile, it now doing a lot more damage. The normal projectile is green and only hits once, but that blue Limit projectile hits a bunch of times and can actually kill up to certain percentages.
And it's much bigger.
Yes, very, very much bigger. But right now, Efer holding pretty good ground, keeping the lead for the most part. This Cloud at 160%, something small really could take this stock. But getting a good parry. So these bubbles you see them hold, also known as their shield, it helps you not take damage. If you release your shield within a certain amount of time from when you get hit, it'll make this like action movie sword clash sound.
I think it's like a ping. But also, and we see another SD.
Unfortunate.
And that coin, I don't think we said it earlier. The coin term for using your up B and getting caught underneath the platform of stage is called pineappling.
Yeah, because I'm not sure why
I think
it's
it
called
goes
that.
back to a stage in Melee that looked like a pineapple that consistently caught people. I believe that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah, there was a predecessor to this game known as Super Smash Bros. Melee, and that was the first one that really got momentum on the competitive Super Smash Brothers scene, and there being a stage looking like a pineapple that would catch people underneath it so they couldn't get back to stage and was consistently making people lose stocks. But yeah, the whole shield and then releasing right when someone attacks you, that is known as a parry. And that's really good if you can get a parry because it allows, just like that we saw right there the Cloud doing, that allows you to do a move quicker than the opponent. And that can help you get damage on and get some follow-ups, maybe even take a stock. So parrying is very, very optimal, but the problem is it's such a short window that it's really, really hard to do.
It's true.
At least consistently. There's not, unless you get to the really high echelon of pro players, not a lot of people can parry consistently.
Well, and even then, it's sometimes a better option just to hold shield and wait for their move to have lag and then punish them for it. Or, roll away or have time to read your options because the shield allows you to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. But Efer having stage control, this is really bad for the Cloud. But him getting back to stage, but then getting knocked off. And Efer really putting on the pressure here, hoping for a misfire. So Luigi, when he does his side special, he kind of shoots out in that like rocket kind of animation. And, getting it with the dash attack, that's deceptively strong.
It really is.
Yeah, and it can kill if you'll let it.
It's a vertical launch, too, so you can't really go up, and for Cloud, that's really hard to recover from because, again, you don't really have much vertical movement off stage. You only have that up and down and maybe some drift when you're in the air.
Yeah, so horizontal movement for Cloud, not super optimal. And the thing about Luigi is that, as we were talking about that side B where it looks like he's a rocket and he's shooting out, there is, I believe, a 10% chance.
I think it's 1 in 8.
1 in 8?
I think. Or maybe that's hero critting.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So it's either a 1 in 8 chance, a 1 in 10 chance of you, because normally you have to charge up the move and he holds it and then he shoots it out, and the more you charge it, the farther you go and the more damage it does. Well, there's a 1 in 8, 1 in 10 chance that it'll do what's known as a misfire, where you can do it instantly and it'll do double max damage, and you go crazy fast and it's super explosive.
And it changes the hitbox on it too, I believe.
Yes, it makes the hitbox bigger, easier to hit, all that stuff. And this also now we can start talking about another mechanic in most games, but also in Super Smash Bros., known as RNG, or random number generation. That's basically the video game development term for randomness. The percentage of things happening in your favor or against your favor. And there are a handful of characters that have randomness involved in their moveset. So like Luigi, when he does that side special rocket attack, there's a 1 in 8, 1 in 10 chance that it'll just do crazy damage, go crazy fast, and that can be really good. That can be game changing.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, if you can get that misfire, especially like back when we saw it earlier, if the one he had tried was a misfire,
that would have been game.
That would have taken the stock. But unfortunately it wasn't, and because of that, he got hard punished for it, which is why that chance gameplay is so risky, but also so rewarding if you can, I guess, get lucky enough to get these big, heavy hits. So another character with randomness, his name is Mr. Game & Watch. And his down special, he has a chance of instantly killing you if you're above like 25%.
Side B.
Oh, side B, side special.
Yes.
He has a chance of instantly killing you if there's a 1 in 9 chance of instantly killing above 20%, which a lot of pro players will go for, and some get a lot.
That's true.
But yeah, here we're going to go into game 2. As you can see up there with IWU with 6 stocks and the Lions with 7. So if Efer can take a stock here, that would be really, really big for SAGU and help them kind of keep this forward momentum. Him getting Efer getting a huge combo off of that plunger grab. So there are different kinds of grabs out there. So what Luigi's grab, how does his work?
So Luigi's grab is considered a tether, and what makes Luigi's tether interesting is that it has a hitbox on the end of it. So if you miss, it has a chance of connecting with or hitboxes connecting with hurtboxes, and either doing some damage or doing some knockback, and it just makes grabbing a lot easier. Another thing that I wanted to talk about just briefly is we talk about combos, and I don't know if we've said that the combo is true or not. That essentially means, can the player get its next move off and the other player not being able to stop it because the moves are coming out so fast?
Yeah, that is what is referred to as a true combo, is whether I am guaranteed to get the next hit of this combo. That is referred to as a true combo. So Luigi at 0, when the opponent is at 0%, there is pretty close to a true combo that he can get if he can get that tether grab, which looks like a plunger. If he can get that tether grab, there is a pretty good chance that he could possibly take your stock starting from 0%, which is really, really strong for a character to have. Not a lot of characters have that, and that term is referred to as 0 to death.
Correct.
Where off of 0%, you're able to take a full stock. But unfortunately, Charizard with his Fire Breath was able to zone out Luigi from actually getting that ledge grab and recovering, and is able to reset it down to 6 stocks. And we are going to BKR versus, I'm just going to assume they gave it to me in order. I'm just going to say this Pokemon trainer is Cypher. So with BKR versus Cypher, we are going to see how this plays out. BKR, already knowing the Pokemon trainer matchup pretty well, I'm pretty confident, but also I know that if the Pokemon trainer if Cypher can play his cards right, that wrote the proper Pokemon rotations, Squirtle, Ivysaur, Charizard, getting that cycle of maybe not even wait, but just when the opponent is at certain percentages, because depending on what the opponent's percentage is will determine whether you can get a combo off or not, because it changes how the knockback works. So being able to cycle through those characters in the right way and almost the right order, I guess, I really think he's got a chance at maybe getting Illinois Wesleyan their first real lead.
Right.
But we're going to hop into this game too, and we will see if SAGU or Illinois Wesleyan can start taking a lead once again, because we are back 3 stocks. And here we have both characters playing in what is known as neutral, but neutral is kind of it's a form of momentum.
Well, let's kind of explain the difference between disadvantage, neutral, and advantage for those viewers who don't know.
Yeah.
So essentially, neutral is the gameplay where you're both trying to hit each other into the next move or the next part of your quote-unquote combo to rack on more damage. And so when you are comboing somebody, you are actively in advantage because you're winning. Whereas if you are being comboed, you are in disadvantage because you are actively losing and you're trying to get back to neutral so you can get to the point where you're comboing your opponent in advantage.
Yeah. So it's, just like almost any sport, momentum is very important. And momentum plays a huge part in how this game works. And a lot of players will start off in neutral. They'll feel out their opponent. They'll just throwing out these little things and hope they can connect these combo starters. Like with Diddy Kong, his neutral is so powerful because he has this move that gives him, silly enough, a banana peel, and he can use that banana peel, and if it connects to the opponent, it will force them into this tripping animation, which then Diddy Kong, like we just saw, can follow up with a huge combo.
Whether that be a grab or a smash attack, which the difference between smash and tilts are tilt attacks are usually faster and do less damage. Smash attacks are more committal but do much more damage.
Yeah, and as you said, more committal, they're slower. So you really have to take your risk reward there and make sure that if you're going to throw out a smash attack that it's going to hit, because not only is it slow at the start, it's slow at the end.
Yeah.
And so there will be enough time for the opponent to get a hit off on you if you do a smash attack at a wrong time. But Charizard having a really strong forward air, doing a forward attack while in the air. Very, very strong. It's this big arching claw attack, able to take the stock off of BKR, resetting it back down to 2-2. But BKR's got a really strong lead here.
Yeah.
And he's got stage control. This is a really bad spot for Charizard because Charizard is not the greatest disadvantage. And you see right there him trying to recover, but he got scared of the banana and did what's known as an air dodge, where when you're in the air, you can have a certain amount of time where you are intangible and vulnerable and you can't get hit. The only problem is after doing an air dodge, there's a long time before you can do anything else.
Yeah.
And if you do that at the wrong time, you can end up falling down, and like we saw this Charizard do, like we saw Cypher do, fall off, and what is almost as bad as an SD or a self-destruct.
Correct.
But, looks like we're seeing some lag. Unfortunately, because this is over the internet, there will be some points where there will be pockets of lag, which can be frustrating. But these players are good enough to where they've learned how to adapt to it. They've learned how to play around it, but it is never fun to see that. But, unfortunately, there's only so much you can do.
Well, that's another thing that I think we discussed kind of bringing up is about how there is that online lag, and it's a very different situation playing online than playing in person at a local tournament. So when you're playing online, no matter what, you're going to have at least 7 frames of lag. And that's just so the system can connect both of your inputs to the same game and have it run and function in a manner. So it's, while not technically slower, it feels slower to the competitive player.
Yeah, absolutely. Input lag, which lag refers to, is basically a delay. And input lag being the delay from when you push the button on your controller to when you see it happen on the screen or in the game. And man, BKR doing really good work against this Pokemon trader, just absolutely carrying his momentum to the fullest. I love seeing it.
I didn't expect the forward smash. I really didn't.
No. The way that BKR plays is so unpredictable, and he'll just throw out forward smashes, but then he'll get away with it, and it blows my mind. But yeah, input lag, the time it takes from you pushing the button on your controller to when you see it in the game, that gets exponentially longer when you're playing over the internet, just because basically when you push the button on the controller, it has to go from the controller to your game, and then it has to go from your game to the network, then it has to go back from the network back to your game, and then it's able to do the input. So there's all this back and forth that it's having to do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, think about it like a phone call. You know, when me and Astro talk, it's instant. It happens instantaneously, and granted, instantaneously it's going through the air, so I guess it's not perfectly instant, but it's really, really fast.
Yeah.
When I'm on the phone with Evan, there's going to be a little bit of delay, and they experience the same thing in their game.
Yeah, and for competitive players, so in games and in movies, there's what's known as frames, because, you know, videos are just moving pictures, and each picture in this moving image is known as a frame. Now, Super Smash Bros. Runs at 30 frames per second. So every second, 30 of these pictures are going one after another to make this game. It's pretty standard, you know, film and game. Well, in gaming, that plays a huge role in how things happen, because how quick something is actually determined by frames. So like a frame 7 attack is considered to be quite fast, whereas a frame 20 attack is considered to be quite slow. That's almost a full second. And in this game, where things happen in fractions of seconds, having shorter frames can really change the outcome. And we are looking at a Shulk. Very interesting.
I think it was a good call.
Yeah, no, 100%. Shulk is very strong, very versatile. It has the same kind of idea of utility and versatility with Steve, but it being a more focused character, I would say. Whereas Steve is just kind of whatever you need, you throw it out there. I feel like Shulk can swap between what are known as his Monado arts, I believe.
Yes.
And it's his main ability where when he's glowing different colors, I guess, different things...
You can see the effects that are in play if you look at the right character on the screen. Again, that is Shulk. You'll be able to see when he has different things active, and each of those things are going to affect how he's played differently.
Yeah, so one of his Monado arts is jump, and when he uses it, it's the green one. When he uses it, he jumps a lot faster and a lot farther. Another one that he can use is known as smash. It's the red one, and when he has that, his attacks do a lot of knockback. Right now, he's blue, which means he uses speed, which means when he's running on the ground, he moves very, very quickly.
Very fast.
And so that's the cool thing about Shulk, is that he can change up what he wants to do, and that'll allow him to pick his battles, if you will, and gain the advantage depending on the situation he's in.
Right.
But as you saw earlier, there's been a little bit of lag. I don't know whose end it's from, but luckily the two players here, BKR and who I assume BKR, and who I assume is Pointed Ranger 11, they're actually able to keep their cool pretty well. And this seems to be a pretty tight, pretty close game, with BKR trying to come back from that early deficit at the beginning, but now having the momentum. But Shulk with that jump art, I honestly think the jump art is one of the strongest arts that he has, just because aerial movement is such a key element of Smash Bros.
I agree, but shield exists.
That's very fair. Shield is his art that makes it so that what he's doing right now, which makes it so that he barely takes any knockback, and it's really hard for you to kill and knock off Shulk when he's in that shield art.
But it makes him heavily comboable.
Yes, because there's such a fixed knockback, you can just keep hitting him over and over again. But it looks like BKR was actually able to get a lead and is now a stock ahead, but Shulk with that forward aerial attack, able to take that stock and reset it, and it's basically an even game right now. But I forgot, we haven't even seen my goodness gracious, I've been thinking that this is game 2. No, Illinois Wesleyan is down to their last stock, and it looks like we might not even get to see Taylor Halo play if this Shulk can't get this last stock off of BKR. But the Shulk keeping momentum, throwing out smash attacks, and switching between the shield to the jump, very standard Shulk play, so that you can keep the momentum in pivotal moments. But man, Shulk at 130%.
Oh, not the backslash.
Not the backslash. Backslash is so deceivingly destructive for yourself. And man. And there we have it. SAGU takes it. Best out of 3, 2 games out of 3. I'd say they did pretty good.
Yeah.
Illinois Wesleyan, man, that's an uphill battle, especially BKR's Diddy Kong, really consistent. Taylor Halo's Me Sword Fighter, man.
First time this season that BKR has achieved his goal of not letting Taylor Halo play.
Wow. Way to go, BKR. Absolute player, absolute dominating Diddy Kong performance.
We love to see it.
We love to see it. And I really liked seeing Efer and BKR really push forward in those early stocks, really getting that momentum early on. That was really, really cool to see, because in that last game that they played against Illinois Wesleyan, Atata was just so destructive that, I mean, Efer and BKR could have taken all the first 6 stocks, but the second you got to those last 3 stocks, I mean, Atata was just able to clean house, and that's where most games it was down to Atata and Taylor Halo, just because of how dominating that Atata performance was. But I really like seeing Efer and BKR really show up and give a solid performance on Luigi and Diddy Kong. That was actually really cool.
It's true, yeah. It was really cool to see, and especially, just real quick, I have a thought. Do you think that the switch from Steve to Shulk was a good idea?
Honestly, I would say yes, but they didn't even get to Taylor Halo, so I would say no.
I also want to say yes. I think it was a good decision.
Really?
I just think that BKR was playing phenomenally.
I
think he played better that second game than he did his first game.
Absolutely. He was playing really, really solid. I think he just knew that play style, because even if you switch characters, the player plays how the player plays. So if you know what the player's thinking, it's easier to go against them and to choose the correct option, just because you can kind of see their headspace.
Right.
So even if he switched from Steve to Shulk, it's still the same player on the controller. Even though it's a different character, it's the same player. It's the same headspace.
Very true.
And so I think BKR just kind of knew that headspace that he was in, and honestly, Diddy Kong is so quick and aggressive and consistent.
And you can mix up your options very well. I think he just played. They all played really great.
They played really, really good, and I mean, there it is. That was it. Well, congratulations, SAGU, for now being 2-0 in the ECAC conference season of spring 2023. But I think that's going to be it.
I think that's it.
Yeah, we've had a great stream here. My name is Evan the Astro Kid.
I'm the Duke.
And this has been the SAGU Sports Network. We will hopefully see you guys next week. I think that's what we're planning to do.
That's the plan.
And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And once again, this has been the SAGU Sports Network.